Thank you, Chair. Ms. Bolduc, I'm going to be asking you some pretty simple but very important questions. I appreciate straightforward answers. We don't want talking points. We don't want to continue to be misled by officials at PSPC and Cbsa. You got caught up in this mess. We, as a committee, want to know how this Arrive scam grew from an initial $80,000 app to at least $60 million with no accountability from this government. I realize you're not part of the Arrive Can app, but this, as the more we dig into these issues and interview witnesses, the more we find layers of misdeeds, collusion with top-level executives pointing the finger down the line. Frankly, we've been misled by senior officials on a number of occasions in a number of committees. This goes for deputy ministers and likely ministers that they are protecting. You've had weeks to prepare for this committee meeting, and we're looking for answers. Canadians deserve nothing but the truth. Yes or no, you've had weeks to prepare. Have you received any coaching at all or any material to review in advance of your testimony today?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. So I have sought and I have received counseling in order to prepare for this committee. This is the first time that I appear at a parliamentary committee, and okay. I wanted to know about the etiquette. If the question is as
who counseled you?
The accountant.
Who counseled you?
So people who are in.
Who counseled you?
So essentially the unit that prepares these witnesses to come to the committee. So in terms of material to come to this committee, no, this is my material.
Okay.
This is okay.
Okay. I want you to name the officials that prepped you for this testimony.
Okay, so that's the unit essentially that.
What's the unit called?
It's the unit that liaises with this committee essentially.
Okay, at PSPC?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, did you talk with Ms. Reza?
No, not at all.
The Deputy Minister?
No, I did not.
In advance of this meeting and preparing for this meeting, you did not?
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I did
yes
not.
Or no? Yes or no? Did you talk with Erin O'Gorman at CBSA?
Point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you,
Mr.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Je comprends.
With all due respect, I understand that my colleague wants to put several questions, but with interpreting, there's always a bit of a delay, and I would ask that they show more respect so that we can get the simultaneous interpretation.
Get a note from the interpreter. Okay, Mr. Genuous, we're going to be here for a little bit of time. I expect there's going to be some Mr. Genuous, you're not the chair. I'm perfectly capable of seeing this through. Mr. Brock, if you could just take your foot off the gas just a little bit. I know you want to get as much time in. Madame Bolduc, and I know this is your first time appearing. I just want to just tell the witnesses a couple things here. The time belongs to the members. So if you are interrupted because they feel your questions are too lengthy or going in direction, I'd ask you just to respect their time. I'm going to assume that all your answers are through the chair. So you don't need to repeat that. Having said that, you are entitled to take a second to answer the question. You certainly, we're not trying to get a rapid fire here. And Mr. Brock, if I could ask you just to kind of recognize there are interpreters here as well. Having said that, we are familiar with your rapid style. We know it's one that you use effectively, and the floor is yours for 3 minutes and 40 seconds, please.
Bolduc, excuse me, who first contacted you about the CBSA investigation?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I was contacted by the Human Resources unit of my department, and my understanding is that they were contacted by the investigation of the CBSA.
When did Michael Lafleur contact you?
I spoke to Michael Lafleur. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I spoke to Michel Lafleur for the very first time on December 13, 2020.
December, sorry?
December 13th.
13th?
Yes,
okay.
2023. Yeah.
You were aware of the exchange of communication between Mr. Lafleur and Ms. Daly leading up to your intervention?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. No. December 13, 2023 is the first time that I was made aware of an
Okay,
investigation.
Mr. Lafleur,
And
hold on, this is my time, ma'am. Mr. Lafleur didn't inform you that he was communicating with Ms. Daly before he spoke with you?
thank you for the question. He informed me for the first time on December 13, 2023.
Okay. And did he inform you that it was an offer to attend, an invitation to attend, as opposed to a mandatory requirement? Did he tell you that?
Thank you for the question. No, he did not tell me that. In fact, I learned it the following day when I spoke to Ms. Daly.
Right. So ultimately, this correspondence goes back and forth between Daly and Lafleur. Lafleur is giving her the impression, because I've got the emails, it's clearly an invitation, it's not a requirement. She says no. She speaks very highly and positively about the work ethic, the integrity, the character of Mr. Utano, Mr. McDonald. She doesn't want to get involved. She specifically confirms people who have lied at committee. She outs Aaron O'Gorman, who we've caught in numerous lies. This is the president of the Cbsa who took it upon herself to lie to a parliamentary committee. She called her out. She called out Mindone, who has also lied throughout numerous committees. You were aware of that, weren't you?
Thank you,
That was brought to your attention?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've followed this committee. I've also followed other committees, so I'm aware
Yes.
of what was said at those
So
committees.
at the time that you get involved, you're actually on vacation. You're actually at least 5 levels above that of Miss Daly, right? You're a director general, right? Miss Daly is I believe, an EX1. Maybe you're an EX5 or EX6. So very, very unusual, because she doesn't report to you. She reports to at least 3 people between you, and all of a sudden, the president of the CBA is very interested in Miss Daly, and your deputy minister, Reza, is very interested. They ask you specifically to cancel your vacation, get back to Ottawa, and put pressure on Miss Daly to participate in an interview. That's how it went down, didn't it?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. I was not on vacation. I was actually on certified medical leave.
Okay.
And the reason why I took this call is I took many other calls during my medical leave because my ankle was broken, but my
Okay.
head was
Speaking
working.
of medical issues, you were aware Ms. Daly had been diagnosed with cancer in the fall of 2023. She informed her superiors about that. You knew that going into your intervention, didn't you?
Thank you very much for the question. I'd like to go back to the question about my first intervention with Mr. Michel Lafleur. So Michel Lafleur contacted me on December 13th. And on December 13th, he explained to me that as audits and evaluations have confirmed and documented, there were missing pieces of information. And as part of their investigation, they wanted to have a witness appear in front of them in order to fill in the gaps.
Thank you very much. That is the time. Ms. Bradford, you have the floor for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Beginning our second round, Mr. Brock, you have the floor again for 5 minutes.
Ms. Bolduc, when did you find out that your Teams meeting with Ms. Daly and Mr. Schoenberg was actually recorded?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the question. When I watched the committee proceeds the night that it occurred on
Okay.
August 7th.
And I trust that you haven't had access to any transcript. You haven't had access to the actual recording itself. I appreciate your memory may not be as sharp as it would be if I were asking you what you did last night. So I'll go through some of the details, all right? Because the impression I'm hearing about you being so managerial-like and concerned regarding her well-being, et cetera, can be interpreted differently. So I'm going to go through a couple of areas. One thing that really caught my eye is your confirmation. This is a 17-minute conversation. Literally within the first minute and a half, you use these words. I know that you did exchange briefly with the CBA in recent weeks. I know, and you know, they're probably explained that they're carrying out an investigation on the allegations that are targeting individuals, two individuals within the Cbsa. A very interesting use of the word, targeting, because that's precisely what the evidence has shown, that government and senior managers, deputy managers, and ADMs have looked for fall people to take the blame for this $60 million boondoggle. And there are consequences when people speak out against power, when people speak out against authority. They end up suspended, sometimes without pay. So I'm glad you used the word targeting, because that's the first confirmation that Justin Trudeau and his government and his public servants are deliberately targeting individuals to take the blame for this boondoggle. That's one observation. Second observation, you said their investigation includes everything that they're able to put their hands on. There's a couple of holes. Another interesting angle. You asked very early on whether Daly was threatened. And you didn't say that once. You didn't say it twice. You didn't say it 3 times. In 17 minutes, Ms. Bulldog, you reiterate, if you've been threatened, now is your time to share details. And I would well imagine the people you believed were threatening Diane Daly were her friends, Mr. Utano and Mr. McDonald. Am I correct?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the question. So you are correct.
Yes, thank you.
I have not heard.
Thank you. I'm moving on.
No. I have not heard the question. I'd like to say on what you are correct. I have not heard the proceedings. I'd like to explain why.
I asked you, ma'am. This is my time. Or Utano threatening Diane. Are you saying no? No. Okay. Who then were you suggesting was threatening her?
Just generally speaking.
What evidence were you relying on?
None.
Who told you to use that line of attack?
Nobody. I was making sure that Ms. Daly did not feel, because she was uncomfortable to participate into the investigation.
Because she already laid out her position. So why does she need to participate in an optional meeting that you kept stressing was no longer optional? In fact, what really disturbs me is Ms. Daly specifically asked you, I want evidence, I want policy, I want written direction, I want something official that compels me to participate in a meeting that I'm not comfortable with. You agreed that you would provide that, and in fact, you didn't. So why didn't you provide policy?
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Chair. I did, in fact, got these policies, and I looked at them. When I looked at them, I realized that the meeting was very strongly mandatory for her under the policies that I reviewed. The reason why I did not provide those policies to Ms. Daly is because, as I explained previously, I was genuinely trying to offer my offer. When I got a hold of this policy, she had already accepted to meet with the Cbsa. There was no point at that time for me to provide these policies.
I don't accept that. I don't accept that at all. You're trying to portray yourself as being really kind to your employees. An employee expresses reservation, concern, feeling pressured to participate in an interview that she doesn't want to do. She asks you a legitimate question. Give me evidence of policy. You find policy and you deliberately withhold it from her.
Thank you,
Not
Mr.
good
Brock.
enough.
Thank you, Mr. Brock. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Benefit of Canadians following this scandal. Let's recap what's happening here. Diane Daly, a low-level, faithful public servant for almost 20 years with no administrative or discipline record, gets investigated, gets suspended because she does not pinpoint Utano and McDonald as being responsible for this $60 million boondoggle. And surprise, surprise, within weeks of her suspension, you get asked to take on more responsibility. Now, you say there's no extra pay with that, but it's a higher profile. And I'm sure you've been bonused. Have you been bonused, ma'am?
Thank
Have you
you very
received a
much for
bonus?
the question. No. And in fact, I have fewer employees
Thank
in my
you.
new role.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Schonenberg, you were responsible for signing off on an ATIP. ATIP A-2003-00431, requested by Cameron McDonald for emails sent and received from Diane Daly, Ms. Boldock, and yourself regarding keywords, Cbsa, investigation, interviews, any and all participation between December the 11th, 23 to the present date, February 16, 24. You then, on the 19th of February, 24, provide an interesting commentary in your response from the PSPC. The matter to which this relates, the investigation, could result in future litigation. So Mr. McDonald, through the legal channels of going through an ATIP, does not receive the information you request because you're protecting it. So I'm asking, why is the PSPC hiding documents that are legitimately being asked for, and who gave you that direction at PSPC?
No one gave that direction. The recommendation form is exactly that, a recommendation form. It's common to indicate that there could be potential litigation associated with a file when providing documents. It is the ATIP office within PSPC that makes the determination of what should be released or what should not.
I call that obstruction of justice. And deliberately withholding key relevant information. Now, for the benefit of Canadians, let's recap what has happened through this entire scandal. I know you're shaking your head because you don't agree with it, Ms. Boldock, but this is exactly what happens. We have ministers denying any and all responsibility. We got a corrupt prime minister denying any and all responsibility for this boondoggle of $60 million.
Point of order, Mr.
We've
Speaker.
got deputy
Point of order,
ministers.
Mr. Chair. Point of order.
Yes,
I
Mr.
know our honourable colleague was a former prosecutor. He knows using language like corruption is a criminal offence. There's been no criminal investigation to the Prime Minister. I would ask him to retract those comments.
point of order.
Okay, yeah, no.
And if he wants to get into an investigation,
Mr. Drouin,
we have two witnesses and
point,
get on with
okay,
questions
gentlemen, cease. So, Mr. Drouin, I do try to maintain decorum. I do also try to give members latitude. And when I hear words in this committee that are permitted in the chamber, I do let them go as kind of the reference point. So, Mr. Brock, you have, and that is by the chamber. I mean the House of Commons. Mr. Brock, you have the floor again.
We have presidents, we have deputy ministers who have deliberately lied and obstructed our ability to get to the truth. And then we have two individuals who called out the lies. Mr. McDonald, Mr. Utano, immediately suspended without pay. Now that's been resolved, the pay issue. They're still suspended because of the use of counsel. And then we have Diane Daly. Again, does not corroborate or put in those missing pieces of the evidence that you refer to. Lo and behold, a 20-year career up in shambles. Now she's suspended because she's not towing Justin Trudeau's line that no one higher up than these low individuals were responsible for choosing Christian Firth and GC strategies. How many other individuals are going to face similar fate? No wonder no one wants to talk about the practices at Cbsa. We heard from the Cbsa union president who talked about a culture of corruption at the Cbsa because people are afraid to talk out and call out the abuses of integrity. That's a real problem with the public service. And everyone is trying to protect Mindone. Mindone, who deleted 4 years' worth of emails, crucial emails, 20,000 emails. Was he suspended? No, he was not. He is on a leave. Everyone is trying to protect him. This is a massive cover-up, and this is inexcusable. Canadians are watching, and you two individuals are part of the cover-up. Thank you.